Driverly.com, unlimited drama series.
The phone rang at 11:47 p.m., jolting me from the first decent sleep I'd had in weeks. Emily's whispered voice cut through the darkness like a blade. "Daddy, please come get me. Mommy's having another party, and Uncle Derek is here again. He's doing scary things, and I can't sleep." My 4-year-old daughter shouldn't even know words like scary things. But here we were, 6 months after the divorce, and Clara was still finding new ways to destroy what was left of our family. I threw on clothes and grabbed my keys, my hands shaking with rage. Derek, Clara's entitled brother, who'd always treated me like dirt under his designer shoes. The same Derek who'd convinced Clara she was too good for a simple electrician like me. The same Derek who'd probably orchestrated half the problems that led to our divorce. The drive across town felt like an eternity. Every red light was a personal insult. Every slow driver an obstacle between me and my daughter. I'd built a decent life for us, a small electrical contracting business, a modest house in a good neighborhood, friends who respected me. Then Derek started whispering poison in Clara's ear about settling and what she deserved. Clara's new apartment complex reeked of money, the kind of place Derek had probably helped her afford. I could hear the music thumping from the 3rd floor before I even got out of my truck, at midnight on a Tuesday, with my daughter trying to sleep inside. I found Emily huddled in the hallway, outside Clara's apartment, clutching her stuffed rabbit. Her eyes were red from crying. "Daddy!" She ran into my arms, and I felt my heart break all over again. "It's okay, sweetheart. Daddy's here now." The apartment door was cracked open, and I could see inside. At least 15 people crowded into the living room, drinks everywhere, music blasting. Derek held court in the center, gesturing wildly with a beer bottle, probably telling another story about his latest business conquest. Clara laughed at something he said, the same laugh that used to make me feel like the luckiest man alive. Now it just made me sick. "Come on, Em. Let's get you out of here." But as I turned to leave, Derek's voice boomed over the music. "Well, well, if it isn't the Sparky. Come to crash the party?" Every conversation stopped. 15 pairs of eyes turned toward me, and I felt the familiar burn of humiliation creep up my neck. Derek's friends, Clara's new crowd, looked at me like I was something they'd scrape off their shoes. "I'm here for my daughter," I said, keeping my voice steady. "It's a school night." Derek laughed, that entitled rich boy laugh that had grated on my nerves since the day I met him. "Relax, man. She's fine. Kids are resilient. Besides, Clara's got every right to have friends over. At midnight, with a 4-year-old trying to sleep?" Clara finally looked at me, her face flushed from alcohol. "Don't be so dramatic, Tom. She was sleeping fine until you showed up making noise in the hallway." The lie hit me like a slap. Emily was still trembling in my arms, and Clara was going to pretend everything was normal. "She called me, Clara. She was scared and couldn't sleep because of the noise." "She's 4, Derek interjected, stepping closer. "She probably had a nightmare. You can't just show up here whenever you feel like playing the hero." I wanted to punch his smug face, but Emily was watching. Instead, I pulled out my phone and started recording. "What are you doing?" Clara demanded, "documenting the environment my daughter is being exposed to." I panned the camera across the room. The empty bottles, the strangers, the chaos. "For the custody hearing." That sobered them up fast. Derek's face went red, and Clara started picking up bottles with shaky hands. "You can't just record people without permission," Derek snarled. "Actually, I can. This is about my daughter's welfare." I looked directly at Clara. "I'm taking Emily home with me tonight." "You can't do that. It's not your custody day. Watch me." For a moment, I thought Derek might actually try to stop me. He took another step forward, his fists clenched, beer on his breath. But I'd been working construction for 15 years and boxing at Mickey's gym for 10. Derek was all talk and expensive suits. "Go ahead," I said quietly. "Give me a reason." He backed down, but the look in his eyes promised this wasn't over. I carried Emily out of that apartment, and as the door closed behind us, I heard Derek's voice. "Your ex is a real piece of work, Clara. You're better off without that loser." The words followed us all the way to my truck. The next morning, I called my lawyer, Janet Patel, before I even had coffee. She listened to the recording from the night before and made sympathetic noises, but I could hear the resignation in her voice. It's not great, Tom, but it's not enough for emergency custody either. Clara wasn't drinking and driving. No one was using drugs that you could see. And technically, Emily wasn't in immediate danger. She was terrified, Janet. A 4-year-old shouldn't have to deal with that. I agree completely. But the family court system moves slowly, and Clara's lawyer will argue that she has a right to a social life. We'll file a motion to modify the custody agreement, but it'll take time. Time. Always more time, while my daughter suffered. I dropped Emily at preschool and headed to my first job of the day, rewiring an old house in Riverside. Usually, electrical work calmed me down. There was something satisfying about taking chaos and making it orderly, about solving problems that had clear solutions. But today, I couldn't focus. My phone buzzed around noon, a text from my buddy Jake Morrison. Dude, you need to see this. He'd forwarded me a screenshot from Clara's Facebook page, a long post about toxic masculinity and controlling ex-husbands who can't accept that their ex-wives have moved on. She'd painted me as some kind of stalker who'd shown up drunk and belligerent, threatening her guests. The comments were worse. Derek had shared it, adding his own editorial. Some guys just can't handle when their ex-wives upgrade. Pathetic. 15 likes already, including from people I'd considered friends. My phone rang. Mickey Santos, my boxing coach and oldest friend. Tommy, what the hell's going on? I'm seeing some crazy stuff online. Clara's rewriting history, making me look like the bad guy. Anyone who knows you knows that's bull. But maybe you should come down to the gym, work off some of that anger before you do something stupid. Mickey was right, as usual. I finished the rewiring job and headed to Santos Boxing Gym, a converted warehouse that had been Mickey's kingdom for 20 years. The familiar smell of sweat and leather hit me as soon as I walked in, and some of the tension left my shoulders. There he is, Mickey called out from the heavy bag area. The Midnight Stalker himself. I must have looked shocked because he quickly raised his hands. Kidding. But seriously, people are talking. That's when I noticed the looks. Guys I'd sparred with for years. Friends who'd been to my wedding were whispering in corners and avoiding eye contact. The social media poison was already spreading. Let me guess, I said. Derek's version of events is more entertaining than the truth. Derek Hoffman? That tool from the country club? Mickey spat. Since when do you care what that crowd thinks? Since they turned my ex-wife against me and now they're turning everyone else. Mickey handed me wraps for my hands. Then let's work on your left hook instead of your self-pity. Bag doesn't care about your reputation. For an hour, I pounded leather and tried to forget about the looks, the whispers, the way my friends were starting to doubt me. But even the physical exhaustion couldn't quiet the anger building in my chest. That evening, I picked Emily up from Clara's apartment for my scheduled custody time. Clara answered the door looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine. Perfect hair, perfect makeup, perfect outfit that probably cost more than I made in a week. We need to talk about last night, she said without preamble. You mean the part where our daughter was crying in a hallway while you partied? I mean the part where you barged into my home and threatened my guests. I stared at her, looking for some trace of the woman I'd fallen in love with 8 years ago. The woman who used to worry about spending $20 on a dinner out, who used to laugh at my terrible jokes, who used to tell me I was the best man she'd ever known. I never threatened anyone, Clara. I came to get our scared daughter and document what she was being exposed to. Derek thinks we should file a restraining order. Derek thinks a lot of things. Most of them are wrong. Her jaw tightened. Derek has been more supportive of me in the last 6 months than you were in the last 2 years of our marriage. Derek wants to control you, Clara. He always has. The only difference is now you're letting him. At least he believes in me. At least he thinks I deserve better than this. She gestured around her, and I realized she meant better than the life we'd built together. Emily appeared in the doorway, backpack in hand, ready for our 2 days together. She looked between her parents with the kind of careful attention kids develop when they're trying to gauge which way the wind is blowing. Ready to go, sweetheart? She nodded and took my hand. As we walked toward my truck, I heard Clara call out, "Derek's right about you, Tom. You never could handle anyone being better than you." The words hit their mark just like she'd intended. The next few days brought a steady stream of social media attacks and whispered conversations that stopped when I entered a room. Derek had weaponized Clara's story, turning it into a crusade against controlling ex-husbands that resonated with their circle of friends. By Friday, the damage was clear. Jake Morrison, who'd been my best man, left me a voicemail. "Hey man, I think we should take a break from our poker games for a while. Some of the guys are uncomfortable after what happened with Clara." Dave Kowalski, my electrical supply guy for 5 years, was suddenly too busy to chat when I came in for materials. "Just grab what you need and settle up with Beth at the counter," he said without looking up from his paperwork. Even my neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, who used to wave every morning, now hurried inside when she saw me coming. Derek's campaign was working. He was systematically destroying my reputation, one relationship at a time. The breaking point came Sunday evening when I dropped Emily back at Clara's apartment. Derek answered the door instead of Clara, wearing a satisfied smirk that made my hands clench into fists. "She's not here," he said. "Had to run some errands." "Where is she?" "Emily needs to get ready for school tomorrow." "Relax, Sparky. I can handle babysitting duty for an hour." "You're not her father." "No, but I'm family. And unlike some people, I actually care about what's best for Clara and Emily." I looked past him into the apartment, where Emily was sitting on the couch watching cartoons. She looked small and lost in the oversized space. "Emily, come give Daddy a hug goodbye." She ran over and I knelt down to her level. "Be good for Mommy, okay? I'll see you Wednesday." "Okay, Daddy. Will you bring my toolbox next time? Uncle Derek said girls can't be electricians." "But you said I could be anything I want." The rage that shot through me was white-hot and immediate. I stood up slowly, looking Derek in the eye. "You told my 4-year-old daughter she can't be an electrician?" "I told her she should aim higher. Nothing wrong with having ambitions." "There's nothing wrong with honest work." "If you say so." He shrugged with deliberate indifference. "But Clara wants Emily to have opportunities. Real opportunities." "Like what? Being a trust fund brat who looks down on people who actually work for a living?" Derek's smirk widened. "Better than being a bitter ex-husband who can't accept that his family moved on to better things." I wanted to hit him so badly my whole body was shaking. Instead, I kissed Emily's forehead and walked away, Derek's laughter following me down the hall. That night, I lay awake staring at the ceiling of my empty house, listening to the silence where Emily's breathing used to be. For the first time since the divorce, I seriously considered just walking away. Selling the house, selling the business, moving somewhere Derek Hoffman and his poison couldn't reach me. But then, I thought about Emily's face when Derek told her she couldn't be an electrician. The confusion and disappointment in her eyes when someone she was supposed to trust told her that her daddy's work wasn't good enough. That's when I realized Derek had made a critical mistake. He'd gone after my daughter's dreams, and that was a line I couldn't let him cross without consequences. I got up, made coffee, and started planning. Monday morning, I called Janet Patel again. "I need to know everything about Derek Hoffman. Business dealings, personal life, legal troubles, everything." "Tom, I understand you're frustrated, but he's poisoning my daughter against me, Janet. Yesterday, he told her she couldn't be an electrician because she's a girl. He's not just attacking me anymore. He's attacking her dreams." There was a long pause. Janet had daughters of her own. "I'll see what I can find. But Tom, whatever you're planning, make sure it's legal. The last thing you need is to give Claire ammunition for the custody fight." "Everything I do will be completely legal, I promise." After I hung up, I drove to Santos Boxing Gym. Mickey was working the speed bag, his rhythm steady and hypnotic. "You look like hell," he said without stopping. "Feel worse? I need a favor, Mickey." "Name it." "I need to know who Derek Hoffman really is. Not the public image, the real story." Mickey's rhythm faltered for just a second. "That's a dangerous game, Tommy." "He's already playing it. I'm just evening the odds. Mickey stopped hitting the bag and turned to face me. You sure about this? Once you start down that road, there's no going back. He went after Emily, told her she couldn't be an electrician because she's a girl. He made her doubt herself, and she's 4 years old. Mickey's expression hardened. That changes things. Give me a couple days. While Mickey worked his contacts, I started my own investigation. Derek worked for Hoffman Development, the family company that had been building strip malls and apartment complexes around town for 30 years. But a little research revealed some interesting details about their recent projects. 3 code violations in the past year, 2 lawsuits from subcontractors claiming they hadn't been paid, and 1 very interesting complaint filed with the Better Business Bureau about shoddy electrical work in their newest apartment complex, the same complex where Clara now lived. I spent Tuesday afternoon at City Hall pulling permits and inspection records. Derek's company had a pattern of cutting corners on electrical work, using the cheapest contractors they could find and pressuring inspectors to pass substandard installations. It was a goldmine of information, but I needed more. I needed something personal.
Since when do you carry men's cologne to the gym?
It's my trainer's. He left it.
Your trainer keeps his
Watch more on Grammarly.com.
Wednesday evening, I picked Emily up for my custody time. Clara answered the door looking tired and stressed. Everything okay? I asked, genuinely concerned despite everything. Fine, just work stuff. She handed me Emily's backpack. She needs to be back by 7 Sunday. I have plans. With Derek? That's none of your business anymore. Emily hugged Clara goodbye, and I noticed she seemed subdued. In the car, I asked her about it. Mommy and Uncle Derek had a big fight, she said quietly. He was yelling about money, and Mommy was crying. Interesting. Derek and Clara were having financial problems. That night, Mickey called with information that made everything click into place. Your boy Derek has expensive tastes, Mickey said. Gambling problem. Specifically poker. Word is he's into some serious people for serious money. How serious? Serious enough that he's been borrowing against company assets, and serious enough that he's been pressuring his sister to help him out. Suddenly, Derek's interest in Clara made perfect sense. It wasn't about family loyalty or protecting his sister from her loser ex-husband. It was about money. Clara's divorce settlement had included half the value of our house and a chunk of my business assets. Derek needed that money to pay his debts. There's more, Mickey continued. The electrical work on Clara's apartment complex? Derek's company used a contractor who's not even licensed in this state. If the right people found out, it could shut down the whole project. I felt a smile spread across my face for the first time in weeks. Mickey, you're a genius. Just returning a favor, Tommy. But be careful. Desperate people do stupid things, and Derek sounds pretty desperate. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table and laid out everything I knew. Derek's gambling debts, the illegal electrical work, Clara's financial dependence on her brother, the social media campaign designed to isolate me from my friends and support network. Derek had been playing chess while I was playing checkers. But now I understood the game, and I had better pieces than he realized. Time to start moving them. Thursday morning, I did something I hadn't done in months. I called Jake Morrison. Tom, I wasn't expecting to hear from you. I need 5 minutes of your time, Jake. Just 5 minutes to tell you what really happened that night at Clara's. There was a long pause. I don't know, man. Things are complicated right now. Jake, we've been friends for 12 years. I was your best man. You owe me 5 minutes. Another pause. Okay, but not at my house. Meet me at Denny's on 5th Street. An hour later, I sat across from my former best friend in a booth that had seen better decades. Jake looked uncomfortable, like he was expecting me to have a breakdown or start making wild accusations. Instead, I pulled out my phone and played him the recording from that night at Clara's apartment. He listened to Emily's scared voice, to Derek's dismissive comments, to Clara's lies about her daughter being fine. When it was over, Jake looked sick. Jesus, Tom, this isn't what Derek said happened. Derek wasn't there when Emily called me crying. Derek didn't see her hiding in the hallway while adults partied 20 feet away. Derek's been telling you a story, Jake, but this is the truth. I showed him the photos I'd taken that night, the empty bottles, the strangers, the chaos of Clara's apartment at midnight on a school night. Why didn't you show people this before? because I was trying to protect Emily's privacy and take the high road. But Derek's been using my silence against me, turning our friends into weapons. Jake stared at the photos for a long time. What do you want from me? I want you to know the truth. What you do with it is up to you. I left Jake at Denny's and drove to my next job, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. One friend down, several more to go. That afternoon, I got a call from Dave Kowalski at the electrical supply house. Tom, I owe you an apology. Jake Morrison stopped by and set me straight about what really happened with your ex. I feel like an ass for giving you the cold shoulder. Don't worry about it, Dave. Derek's a convincing liar. Yeah, well, speaking of Derek, you might want to know that his company's been buying a lot of substandard wire lately. The cheap Chinese stuff that barely meets code. Makes me wonder what they're doing with it. Thanks for the heads up, Dave. By Friday, the tide was starting to turn. Jake had talked to the other guys from our poker game, and suddenly my phone was buzzing with apologetic texts. Mrs. Rodriguez waved at me from her garden like nothing had ever happened. Even Mickey seemed more relaxed when I stopped by the gym, but Derek wasn't finished. Friday evening, when I went to pick up Emily for the weekend, he was waiting for me in the parking lot of Clara's apartment complex. We need to talk, he said, stepping out from behind a BMW that probably cost more than my annual income. I've got nothing to say to you, Derek. Well, I've got plenty to say to you. He moved closer, trying to use his height to intimidate me. Derek was maybe 6'2", soft around the middle, with the kind of pale complexion that came from too much time in boardrooms and not enough time outdoors. You've been spreading lies about me, he continued, trying to turn people against me. I've been telling people the truth. There's a difference. The truth? Derek laughed, but there was no humor in it. The truth is that you're a loser who can't accept that Clara deserves better than some blue-collar nobody. And you think you're better. I know I am. I've got education, connections, money. What do you have? A high school diploma and calloused hands? I looked at Derek's soft hands, his expensive clothes, his entitled sneer, and felt something cold settle in my chest. I have something you'll never have, Derek. What's that? The respect of people who actually work for a living. People who build things instead of just taking credit for them. Derek's face flushed red. You think you're so noble, don't you? The honest working man, salt of the earth. But you're nothing, Tom. You're a nobody who married above his station and couldn't hold on to what he had. Is that what you told Clara? That she married beneath herself? I told Clara the truth, that she's beautiful and smart and deserves someone who can give her the life she wants, not some electrician who thinks a night out at Applebee's is living large. The contempt in his voice was absolute, and I realized that Derek genuinely believed every word he was saying. In his world, people like me were interchangeable parts, useful for manual labor, but not worthy of respect or consideration. You know what's funny, Derek? You think money makes you better than me, but you're so broke. You had to manipulate your sister into bailing you out of your gambling debts. Derek went very still. What did you say? I said you're broke. Word gets around, especially when you owe money to the kind of people who don't accept payment plans. You don't know what you're talking about. I know you've been borrowing against company assets. I know you need Clara's divorce money to cover your poker losses. And I know the electrical work on this apartment complex is so substandard, it's a fire hazard waiting to happen. Derek's face had gone pale. You can't prove any of that. Want to bet? Because I've got friends in the inspection department. And they'd be very interested to know that your company used an unlicensed contractor for the electrical work here. For a moment, I thought Derek might actually take a swing at me. His hands were clenched into fists, and there was genuine panic in his eyes. Instead, he stepped back and tried to regain his composure. Stay away from my family, Tom. Stay away from Clara, and stay away from Emily. You're poison, and we don't need that in our lives. Emily is my daughter, not yours. And Clara's not your family. She's your meal ticket. Derek turned and walked away without another word, but I could see the tension in his shoulders, the way his hands were shaking. I'd rattled him, maybe more than I'd intended. That should have been a warning. Saturday morning, I woke up to my phone buzzing with notifications. Someone had posted a video on Facebook that was already going viral in our small community. The video showed Derek at what looked like an underground poker game, drunk and belligerent, shouting at other players, and making wild bets with money he clearly didn't have. The timestamp was from 2 weeks ago. Within an hour, the video had been shared dozens of times. Derek's carefully maintained image as a successful businessman was crumbling in real time. My phone rang. It was Clara, and she was furious. "Did you post that video?" "What video?" "Don't play dumb, Tom. The poker video. Derek says you threatened him yesterday." "I didn't post anything, Clara. But if Derek's gambling problem is becoming public knowledge, maybe that's something you should be concerned about." There was a long pause. "What gambling problem? You mean he didn't tell you? The reason he's been so interested in your finances lately?" "Clara, Derek owes money to some very dangerous people, and he's been counting on your divorce settlement to bail him out." Another pause, longer this time. "That's not true. Ask him. Ask him how much he owes, and to whom. Ask him why he really encouraged you to divorce me. Derek loves me. He's been protecting me from you. Derek's been using you, Clara, just like he's used everyone else in his life." She hung up on me, but I could hear the doubt in her voice. Sunday afternoon, when I went to drop Emily back at Clara's apartment, I found chaos. Moving boxes were stacked in the hallway, and Clara was throwing clothes into suitcases with shaking hands. "What's going on?" "We're leaving," she said, without looking at me. "Emily and I are going to stay with my parents for a while." "Why?" "Because Derek's business partners came by this morning asking questions about money. Because the apartment complex management wants to evict everyone while they redo the electrical work. Because everything is falling apart." Emily sat on the couch, clutching her stuffed rabbit, watching her mother pack with confused eyes. "Mommy, where are we going?" "To Grandma and Grandpa's house, sweetheart. Just for a little while." I knelt down next to Emily. "Hey, kiddo, this is going to be an adventure, okay? And I'll still see you every week, just like always." "Will Uncle Derek come too?" Clara and I exchanged glances. "No, sweetheart. Uncle Derek has to take care of some business." After Clara finished packing, I helped them load the car. As we worked, Clara finally looked at me directly. "Was it true? What you said about Derek using me?" I thought about lying, about taking the high road one more time. But Emily deserved better than a family built on deception. "Yes, I'm sorry, Clara. I really am." She nodded slowly. "I should have known. The signs were all there, but I wanted to believe someone thought I was worth more than—" She gestured helplessly. "You are worth more, Clara. You always were. But your worth isn't measured by someone else's bank account or social status." For just a moment, I saw a glimpse of the woman I'd fallen in love with. Vulnerable, honest, real. I made a mistake, didn't I? With the divorce, with Derek, with all of it. We both made mistakes. But we can still do right by Emily. Clara wiped her eyes and straightened her shoulders. "I'll call Janet Patel tomorrow. Maybe we can work out a better custody arrangement." "I'd like that." As Clara and Emily drove away toward her parents' house 3 hours north, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Monday morning brought the final chapter of Derek's downfall. The local newspaper ran a front-page story about Hoffman Development's financial troubles, complete with details about Derek's gambling debts and the company's use of unlicensed contractors. By noon, the state licensing board had launched an investigation, and by evening, Derek's father had fired him from the family business. Tuesday, Janet Patel called with news that made me smile for the first time in months. Clara wants to renegotiate the custody agreement. She's proposing 50-50 custody and a reduction in support payments. She also wants to formally apologize for the social media posts. What changed her mind? I think Derek's lies finally caught up with him, and I think she realized that having money doesn't make someone a good person. Wednesday evening, Clara called me directly. "Tom, I owe you an apology, a real one, not just legal paperwork." "You don't owe me anything, Clara." "Yes, I do. Derek convinced me that you were holding me back, that I deserved someone more successful, more sophisticated. But success isn't about money or status. It's about being honest and working hard and taking care of the people you love. You always did that. We both got lost for a while. The important thing is that we found our way back to what matters. Emily. Derek's gone, by the way. Left town yesterday after his father cut him off. I don't think he'll be back. Good riddance." "Tom, do you think—" Do you think we could try being friends again? For Emily's sake. I thought about everything we'd been through, all the pain and anger and betrayal. But I also thought about the good times, the love we'd shared, the beautiful daughter we'd created together. I think we can try, Clara, for Emily's sake. 6 months later, Emily and I were in my garage, working on a birdhouse for her school project. She was wearing tiny safety goggles and wielding a screwdriver, with a serious concentration of a master craftsman. Daddy, when I grow up, can I be an electrician like you? You can be anything you want to be, sweetheart. Electrician, doctor, teacher, astronaut, anything. What if I want to be all of them? I laughed and ruffled her hair. Then you'll be the busiest person in the world. Through the open garage door, I could see Clara's car pulling into the driveway. She'd moved back to town the month before into a modest apartment that she could afford on her paralegal salary. We weren't together, too much had happened for that. But we were friends, co-parents, who put their daughter's needs first. Clara walked into the garage, smiling at the sight of Emily, covered in sawdust and completely absorbed in her project. How's the construction going? Great, Emily announced. Daddy's teaching me about electrical circuits next week. Clara looked at me and smiled. Not the brittle social climbing smile she'd worn during the Derek era, but the genuine warm smile I remembered from our early days together. That sounds perfect, sweetheart. As for Derek, we heard through the grapevine that he'd moved to Florida and was working as a used car salesman. His gambling debts had followed him, and his family had cut him off completely. Sometimes I almost felt sorry for him. Almost. But mostly, I felt grateful. Derek's attempt to destroy my life had ultimately shown me what really mattered: my daughter's love, my friend's loyalty, and my own integrity. He'd tried to make me feel small, but in,